Before there was a single cell in the sea, before a fin cut through shallow water, before a creature opened its eyes to the morning light of a new world, there was intention. There was a living design held in the minds of beings whose entire existence is devoted to one sacred task: the initiation of life on the inhabited worlds of time and space. These are the life carriers. They are not angels. They are not planetary rulers. They are not judges of ascending souls or architects of universes. They are something altogether singular in the economy of Nebadon, beings who stand at the threshold between the non-living and the living, and who bear, within their ministry, the patterns from which mortal life unfolds. To understand the life carriers is to understand something profound about how God works, not by divine decree alone, but through patient, deliberate, biologically intricate creation, world by world, ocean by ocean, cell by cell. The life carriers were brought into being through a unique collaboration at the highest levels of universe government. Paper 36 tells us that they are the offspring of three pre-existent personalities: the Creator Son, the Universe Mother Spirit, and one of the Ancients of Days of the superuniverse. This means that the life carriers are not a minor order casually commissioned. Their origin involves the local universe, the superuniverse, and the creative ministry of the Universe Mother Spirit. That alone should give us pause. The beings entrusted with establishing physical life on the evolving worlds are created with extraordinary care because their mission is irreversible. Once life is planted on a planet, that world is changed forever. There are three grand divisions among the life carriers: the senior life carriers, the assistants, and the custodians. A planetary corps commissioned to plant life on a new world usually consists of 100 senior life carriers, 100 assistants, and 1,000 custodians. They do not go alone. The Melchizedeks are closely associated with them and accompany them when they go forth to establish life on a new planet. They are semi-material beings. This is a remarkable detail. Unlike purely spiritual personalities, life carriers can operate close to the material level. Under certain conditions, they may even become visible to material eyes. They are, in a sense, living bridges between spirit purpose and material biology. It is fitting that beings whose work is to translate divine intention into living form should themselves stand near the boundary between matter and spirit. And their home is just as remarkable as their nature. In the Salvington Circuit, there is a special group of 49 worlds devoted to the life carriers. These are the fourth group of 7 primary spheres, each surrounded by 6 satellites. The 7 primary worlds are the life carrier headquarters, the life planning sphere, the life conservation sphere, the sphere of life evolution, the sphere of life associated with mind, the sphere of mind and spirit in living beings, and the sphere of unrevealed life. These worlds are not crude laboratories of mechanical experiment. They are living universe schools of biological wisdom, architectural spheres where the mysteries of life are studied, planned, conserved, and correlated with mind and spirit. On the life carrier headquarters world, all known phases of universal life are studied. There also are the 7 central emplacements of the Adjutant mind spirits. On the life planning sphere, new modes of life organization are worked out. And on the second satellite of that world are the planetary life planning laboratories, where the life now evolving on Urantia was planned and partially worked out. Urantia is not just another standard world. It is a decimal planet, a life experiment world. On one world in 10, greater variance from the standard life designs is permitted. That means our biology, with all its struggle and wonder, belongs to an experimental pattern in Nebadon. Here is where the theology deepens. The life carriers can formulate life. They can organize the physical patterns. They can work with the chemical, electrical, and material foundations of living organisms. They can supervise the conditions under which life will begin and flourish. They carry and organize life patterns, the living formulas from which creature existence unfolds. But they do not create life by themselves. Paper 36 is careful about this. The life carriers catalyze the lifeless material. They initiate the required revolutions of matter. They transmit the vital spark through their persons, but not by their own personal power. The essential factor of the living plasm is supplied by the universe mother spirit. Life flows from the Father, through the Son, and by the Spirit. In Nebadon, the divine minister gives that vitalizing energy which enlivens the body and presages the mind. This distinction matters. It tells us that life is not merely chemistry. The life carriers may organize the pattern, but the mystery of life comes from higher spiritual sources. No matter how intricate the biology, no matter how exact the design, the living spark is still a divine mystery. Paper 58 brings us to our own world. About 550 million years ago, Urantia was ready. The oceans had been prepared across long ages. The atmosphere had changed. The seas had reached the right condition. The temperatures and shorelines had passed through the necessary stages. The life carriers had been observing and waiting. And then the moment arrived. But life on Urantia was not imported from another world. The life carriers did not carry some alien organism and drop it into our sea. The Urantia life pattern was organized here, on this planet, according to the plans previously worked out in the life carrier laboratories of Nebadon. They did not plant life in one location. They planted it in 3. There were 3 original, identical, and simultaneous marine life implantations placed in widely separated regions of the ancient seas. This was not 3 different kinds of life, but one original life pattern planted in 3 separate marine environments. From those beginnings, through time, variation, struggle, adaptation, and overcontrol, the biological story of Urantia began to unfold. What they planted was not yet anything we would recognize as animal or human. The first living things were microscopic organisms in the warm, shallow waters of a young world. But hidden inside those beginnings was the long future of the planet: fins and wings, forests and breathing creatures, eyes and hands, families and tribes, and eventually beings capable of knowing God. The life carriers remained. They stayed through the early ages, fostering the development of life, watching the first organisms multiply and diversify, observing the long, difficult, magnificent ascent of organic evolution. They could not intervene carelessly. They were not free to violate the laws of nature whenever they wished. But during the ages between life establishment and the appearance of human will, they were permitted to manipulate the life environment and favorably directionize biological evolution. This is one of the great teachings of Paper 65, the Overcontrol of Evolution. Evolution is not random, but neither is it mechanically forced. It occupies a vast middle ground. The life carriers initiate a process whose broad direction is purposeful, toward complexity, mind, moral capacity, and spiritual receptivity. But the details unfold through real biological struggle, genuine natural law, and the long drama of planetary conditions. The life carriers work patiently. They watch over life as it adapts, branches, rises, fails, disappears, and rises again. Some forms exist only for a time. Some appear almost useless from the outside. Some lines vanish. Others become the foundation for higher life. But through the whole long process runs what the book calls the wise and intelligent formulation of the original designers. Urantia's story was not easy. Our world saw long delays, extinctions, unstable conditions, and difficult evolutionary turns. Reptilian life dominated for ages, Promising lines disappeared. The path toward mankind was not smooth. But the life carriers did not abandon the world. They continued to foster the process within the limits allowed to them, trusting that the life they had initiated could survive the planetary struggle. And the life carriers did not work alone. With them came the ministry of the 7 adjutant mind spirits: intuition, understanding, courage, knowledge, counsel, worship, and wisdom. These are not personalities moving about like angels. They are circuits of mind ministry from the universe mother spirit, always accompanying the life carriers to a new planet. Through these adjutant spirits, evolving creatures are gradually prepared for higher mind. The lower adjutants operate in animal life, but the higher adjutants, worship and wisdom, mark the approach of true moral and spiritual capacity. Worship is the great dividing line. It is the first impulse that separates a creature capable of spiritual ascent from the purely animal level of existence. So the life carrier story is not merely biological. It is biological, mental, and spiritual. The life carriers begin with physical patterns, but the purpose hidden inside those patterns is the emergence of creatures who can think, choose, worship, and one day ascend toward paradise. And then, after hundreds of millions of years, the great moment came. In the lives of Andon and Fonta, animal mind crossed the threshold into human will. For the first time on Urantia, there appeared beings capable of moral decision and spiritual choice. The long biological preparation had produced creatures who could know God. At that point, the direct work of the life carriers ended. This is very important. Their active manipulation did not end merely because life had become self-sustaining. It ended when beings with will appeared, beings with the power of moral decision and spiritual choice. From that moment forward, the life carriers could no longer manipulate the evolving life of the planet. They were not permitted to experiment with will creatures or dominate the moral development of mankind. Evolution would now proceed under the inherent tendencies already established in the planetary life patterns. The life carriers had brought the world to the threshold of humanity. But once humanity appeared, a new drama began. The drama of mind, will, soul, rebellion, revelation, and destiny. They did not entirely disappear from Urantia. According to paper 36, 2 senior life carriers and 12 custodians are now serving on Urantia as advisors in the further development and conservation of the life plasm. Their original work of life implantation is complete, but their concern for the biological history of this planet continues. And the legacy of their work is us. Every human body on Earth traces back, biologically, to that original life establishment in the ancient seas. The brain that allows us to think, the nervous system that allows us to respond, the eyes that perceive beauty, the hands that build, the voice that prays. All of these are part of the long biological inheritance that began when living design met divine vitalization on a young world. But the story does not end with biology. When a normal-minded human being reaches moral choosing, the door opens to the higher spiritual ministries. The creature who began as life in the sea becomes a personality capable of receiving the divine adjuster, forming a soul, surviving death, and ascending through the mansion worlds toward paradise. That is the wonder of the life carrier story. They do not ask for worship. They are not the source of life itself. They are not the Father. They are not the Creator's Son. They are not the universe Mother Spirit. They are servants. But what servants they are. They stand at the beginning of the inhabited worlds. They work in silence across ages too vast for human imagination. They prepare the living stage upon which personality, worship, and soul-making can appear. Because of their ministry, Urantia became a living world. Because of their patience, evolution had time to climb. Because of the universe mother spirit, the vital spark enlivened the lifeless pattern. And because the Father gives himself to his mortal children, the creatures who began in the sea may one day stand in the presence of God. The life carriers planted no religion. They founded no civilization. They wrote no scripture. But before prophet, priest, king, teacher, or revelator could ever appear, there first had to be life. And on Urantia, under divine commission, the life carriers helped make the world alive. If you've made it to the end, thank you. That means more than you know. I want to show you something I've been quietly working on. It's called Epochal Winds, a cooperative space where the Urantia papers are being brought to life through teaching, music, narrative, and visuals. It's not finished yet, but something real is being built there. Head over to epochalwinds.com and take a look around. I think you'll feel it. One more thing before you go, and this one's a book recommendation. 2 books, actually. They're called The Firstborn and The Early Watch, books 1 and 2 of the Origins, the Life Carrier series by Ryan Hansen. And if you know Paper 36, you already know who Nambia is, the original and firstborn life carrier of Nebadon. Ryan Hansen took that single name from the papers and built a full story around him.